During the Cold War, the Soviet Union built places so secret that some of them didn't even exist on maps. Hidden underground bunkers, abandoned nuclear cities, and mysterious military bases were appeared across the USSR. And today we are diving into 5 of the most secret Soviet zones ever created. Imagine an entire city so secret that it literally didn't exist on Soviet maps. That was Arzamas 16, one of the most mysterious places in the entire USSR. Today it's known as Sarov, but during the Cold War, even saying its real purpose out loud could get someone arrested. The city was created shortly after World War II, when the Soviet Union desperately wanted to build its own atomic bomb. The Americans had already used nuclear weapons in Japan, and Soviet leaders knew they were now in a dangerous race for power. So they picked a remote area surrounded by forest, fenced it off, erased nearby villages, and turned it into a closed military scientific zone. Thousands of scientists, engineers, and workers were secretly moved there. Some came willingly because the government offered better housing and supplies than most Soviet citizens could dream of. Others arrived under strict orders. Once inside, living wasn't simple. Residents lived behind checkpoints, armed guards, and layers of secrecy. What's crazy is that despite being heavily guarded, Arzamas 16 actually looked pretty normal inside. There were schools, parks, theaters, and apartment buildings. Kids played outside while just a few kilometers away, scientists were designing some of the deadliest weapons ever created. The most famous scientist connected to the city was physicist Andrei Sakharov, one of the creators of the Soviet hydrogen bomb. Ironically, he later became one of the USSR's biggest critics and fought against nuclear weapons. The city's main mission was building Soviet nuclear bombs fast enough to compete with the United States, and it worked. In 1999, the USSR successfully tested its first atomic bomb, shocking the world and officially starting the nuclear arms race. For decades, Arzamas 16 remained completely hidden. Mail sent there used fake postal addresses. Foreigners couldn't enter, and many Soviet citizens didn't even know the city existed. Even today, the area is still highly restricted because Russia's nuclear research continues there. So, technically, Arzamas 16 never really stopped being secret. It just became slightly less invisible. And honestly, that's what makes it so fascinating. Behind ordinary apartment blocks and quiet streets, history-changing weapons were created in total silence. Hidden deep beneath the mountains of Crimea lies one of the creepiest abandoned military structures from the Soviet era, Object 221. And honestly, this place looks less like a bunker and more like the setting of a post-apocalyptic movie. Construction began during the Cold War, when Soviet leaders feared nuclear war with the United States could happen at any moment. The USSR needed hidden command centers where military officials could survive and continue controlling the country even after a nuclear strike. So engineers decided to build an enormous underground fortress inside solid rock. From the outside, the area looked almost harmless. Some fake buildings and small industrial structures were placed around the mountain to hide what was really happening underground. But beneath the surface, workers carved out massive tunnels, giant holes, staircases, ventilation systems, and protected command rooms. The bunker was designed to survive a direct nuclear attack. And we're not talking about a small shelter. Some tunnels were large enough for trucks to drive through. The complex stretched deep into the mountain, with multiple underground levels connected by endless corridors. Heavy blast doors sealed different sections in case radiation entered the facility. At the height of the Cold War, secrecy around Object 221 was extreme. Many workers reportedly didn't even know what they were building because construction was divided into isolated sections. Soldiers guarded the area constantly, and maps often built the site as something completely unrelated. Then the Soviet Union collapsed. By the early 1990s, funding disappeared almost overnight. The bunker was never fully completed. Military personnel abandoned the project, equipment vanished, and the giant underground complex slowly turned into a dark, empty shell. Today, Object 221 has become legendary among urban explorers. People who enter describe endless, flooded tunnels, rusting metal, collapsed shafts, and complete darkness. Some areas reportedly descend so deep that flashlights barely reveal the bottom. Because the bunker was never officially opened to the public, rumors exploded around it. Some believe secret experiments happened there, others claim hidden military archives are still buried inside. There are even stories about missing explorers who entered the tunnels and never returned. Most of these stories are probably exaggerated, but honestly, when you see photos of the place, it's easy to understand why the rumors exist. Object 221 feels like a frozen piece of the Cold War, a giant underground monument built for a nuclear apocalypse that thankfully never came. When people talk about secret military zones, most think about Area 51 in the United States, but the Soviet Union had its own version hidden deep in Astrakhan district, Kapustin Yar. And honestly, this place generated just as many strange rumors. The military test range was created in 1946, right after World War II. At the point, the USSR was racing to develop advanced missile technology as quickly as possible. Soviet engineers had captured German V-2 rocket technology after the war, and Kapustin Yar became one of the main locations where those rockets were studied, rebuilt, and tested. The area was perfect for secrecy, endless steppes, almost no nearby population, and strict military control made it nearly impossible for outsiders to see what was happening. At first, the rocket to launch it there was relatively simple, but over time Kapustin Yar evolved into one of the Soviet Union's most important weapons testing facilities. Ballistic missiles, anti-aircraft systems, experimental military technology, all kinds of classified projects passed through the site. And naturally, because almost nobody could enter the area, rumors spread everywhere. Some Soviet citizens believed strange lights over the test range were UFOs. Pilots reported unusual aerial objects. Locals spoke about mysterious explosions in the sky and unidentified debris fallen into remote regions. Western intelligence agencies also became obsessed with the site, constantly trying to understand what exactly the Soviets were testing there. The secrecy only made the legend stronger. There are even stories claiming the USSR recovered crushed, unidentified objects near Kapustin Yar and secretly studied them. Not solid evidence has ever confirmed this, but the rumors became incredibly popular during the Cold War. What we don't know for sure is already fascinating enough. Kapustin Yar played a major role in the Soviet missile program and early space research. Some experimental launches connected to future space technologies happened there before the USSR fully shifted toward Baikonur. The military presence was intense, entire sections of the regions were closed off, and unauthorized entry could lead to arrest. Satellite imagery during the Cold War revealed launch pads, bunkers, radar systems, and huge support facilities scattered across the landscape. Even today, parts of Kapustin Yar remain active military territory. And maybe that's why the mystery around the place never fully disappeared. Between rocket launches and classified experiments and decades of secrecy, Kapustin Yar became one of those rare places where real history and conspiracy theories blend together almost perfectly. Because when a government hides something for long enough, people eventually start imagining things even stranger than reality. Hidden beneath the rocky hills of Balaklava sits one of the most unbelievable Cold War structures ever built, a secret underground submarine base known as Object 825 GTS. And the craziest part is that for years ordinary people lived nearby without fully understanding what was hidden inside the mountain. After World War II, Soviet leaders feared nuclear war with the West. Submarines carrying nuclear weapons became extremely important, but they were vulnerable while docked in open harbors. So the USSR decided to build a protected naval base literally inside solid rock. Engineers carved enormous tunnels directly through the mountain near Balaklava Bay. The project was insanely ambitious. Massive underground canals allowed submarines to enter the base secretly from the sea. Once inside, giant blast doors could seal the tunnels shut, protecting everything from nuclear explosions. The entire complex was built to survive a direct atomic strike. Inside the mountain were repair docks, ammunition storage rooms, fuel systems, workshops, command centers, and escape routes. At full capacity, the facility could hide and service several submarines at once. The secrecy surrounding the project was extreme. Balaklava itself became a closed city. Foreigners were banned completely, and even many Soviet citizens needed special permission to enter. Official maps often hid important details about the area. Workers involved in construction signed strict secrecy agreements, and military patrols constantly monitored the coastline. What's really eerie is imagining how normal life looked on the surface. Fishing boats floated quietly in the bay while beneath the mountain, Soviet submarines armed with deadly weapons moved through hidden tunnels. During the Cold War, the base was considered one of the most secure naval facilities in the Soviet Union. If nuclear war had started, submarines stationed there was expected to continue operating even after massive attacks. But history changed faster than the bunker could adapt.
After the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, the base slowly lost importance. Military funding disappeared, submarines left, and the once secret complex was eventually abandoned. Metal scavengers stripped parts of the facility, and some tunnels sat empty for years. Today, parts of Object 825 GTS have become a museum. Visitors can actually walk through the underground canals in giant chambers that were once among the USSR's deepest secrets.
And honestly, seeing those dark tunnels in person makes one thing very clear: the Soviet Union truly prepared for the end of the world. Beneath the crowded streets of Moscow, beyond the public subway system millions of people use every day, there are persistent rumors about something far more secretive, an underground network known as Metro 2. And depending on who you ask, it may be one of the Soviet Union's greatest hidden projects.
The story began during the Stalin era, when Soviet leadership became obsessed with survival during war. Moscow was considered a primary target in any future conflict, especially once nuclear weapons entered the picture. According to reports and former insiders, Soviet authorities secretly constructed a parallel underground transport system reserved only for government officials, military commanders, and intelligence agencies. Unlike the normal Moscow metro, Metro 2 supposedly connected highly sensitive locations: the Kremlin, military headquarters, underground bunkers, secret command centers, and even airport outside the city.
Some claims say the tunnel stretched far beyond Moscow itself.
What makes the mystery so fascinating is that fragments of evidence keep appearing over the years. Former officials, diggers, and urban explorers have described sealed tunnel entrances, guarded underground passages, and maps showing unexplained structures beneath the city. There are also reports that the system was controlled by the KGB and designed specially for nuclear war scenarios. According to many theories, if a nuclear attack happened, Soviet leaders could evacuate underground without ever appearing on the surface. Trains inside Metro 2 allegedly carried personnel between secure bunkers while Moscow above them burned.
Honestly, it sounds like science fiction, but parts of the story may actually be true.
The Soviet Union definitely built enormous underground infrastructure. Many public metro stations in Moscow were already designed as bomb shelters, with giant blast doors and deep tunnels capable of protecting civilians during attacks. And the USSR openly constructed secret bunkers elsewhere, so a hidden government evacuation system isn't impossible at all. Still, official confirmation remains extremely limited. Russian authorities have never fully acknowledged Metro 2's existence. Some former officials hinted at classified underground systems, but details remain unclear. Meanwhile, urban legends turned the network into something almost mythical. Explorers searching for entrances occasionally disappear into abandoned tunnels beneath Moscow. Online communities share blurry maps and stories about hidden stations never meant for public use. Some even claim secret trains still operate there today. Whether all those stories are true or not, Metro 2 became part of Cold War legend because it represents something very real: the contrast fear of nuclear annihilation.
The Soviet leadership prepared for catastrophe on a massive scale, and somewhere beneath Moscow's streets there may still be hidden tunnels built for one day the world was supposed to end. Thank you for watching. Leave the comment what you think about these places and if you want a part 2. And see you next video. Bye bye.